Hello, friends online. I just want to give a quick little rant about the Charlie Kirk situation, assassination, whatever we want to call it. I might get age restricted on YouTube. I don't care. Um, I just, I feel like both extreme reactions that are happening that we're seeing on social media, at least, neither are balanced or, in my view, healthy. So pedestaling someone who said empathy wasn't real or good and, actively did a lot of really terrible things just on a human to human level, acting like they are some kind of saint is delusional in my opinion. But then also advocating for cold-blooded murder just because someone's a terrible person doesn't feel right to me either. I'm not ever gonna betray my own morals and values just because I think someone is a bad person. I would never say that raping anyone is okay, even if they were a rapist themselves. I don't think it's okay to do those things. That's why I am against those kinds of people. So, sure, I don't like bigots at all. I don't like homophobes, transphobes, people filled with hatred. They're not the kind of people I think that we should be trying to be like as a human species, right? But I also don't believe in just murdering them either. I don't celebrate murder, nor will I mourn the death of someone who was actively degrading the morals and values of humanity. That we ought to have, really. That, the idea that all life is sacred. I do think it's kind of poetic justice and karmic that someone who personally said that, the deaths from gun violence are just the price we pay to bear arms was then murdered by a gunman. I find it ironic, but it is still sad, and I do still think that we ought to have empathy for the children that had to witness their father being killed. I don't think that's okay, and I don't wish harm on any child, even if, their parent was Hitler or Charles Manson. I don't want innocent children to have to go through trauma, and I think that's a really important part that I'm not seeing personally in a lot of dialogue, where people either villainize him and say he deserved cold-blooded murder, or are putting him on this pedestal and making him a martyr. I don't think either one is looking at the full picture. I think it's a very nuanced situation, and oftentimes many truths coexist simultaneously, right? Simultaneously, it is true that he was not a good person, and he also didn't deserve to be murdered. So while I won't celebrate his death, I won't mourn him either. I didn't know him personally, obviously, I'm not in the political sphere. I had never spoken to him, met him, anything like that. So I only know of him what I've read from, third-party sources. So I have to take that with a grain of salt. But I also can know what I saw in videos of what he has directly said, what he's been quoted saying, and also take that into account in my own judgment of the character of a stranger, basically, right? I will never celebrate murder, and I will never mourn the death of people who advocate for hatred, and these can be true at the same time. And so I just kind of wanted to put my opinion out there because I think it's important. I think that a lot more of us are moderate than what the media likes to portray. I think many people feel the same way I do that are democratic or liberal, I know I've seen a lot of Republican-based coverage saying the liberal Democrats are celebrating that he's dead. They want us all dead. And it's that's not really true for most of the people that I know in my own personal real life that are liberal Democratic. We're not happy that someone got murdered, but we're also not in tears crying all busted up over it either. And I think that's fair. I don't think it's unempathetic to not be brokenhearted over someone's death. That people die every single day, and I don't personally mourn them. It doesn't mean that I actively relish in their death. It doesn't mean that I think they ought to have died. It just means that it is not personally affecting me, because mourning is a very personal thing. Now, I have mourned for strangers, the concept of stranger deaths, like the idea of people being bombed in Palestine, innocent children dying. That does make me grieve. I do feel sad for that, but at the same time too, I'm not going through a whole grieving process like I would if my father or my pets or, someone I loved, like a friend, died. That's a whole different thing, and I think people need to understand the nuance there. I'm not going to like make some kind of statement about how, oh, he was such a good person and he didn't deserve this, like, that's because it's not how I feel, and I'm never going to be disingenuous like that. But I also don't think it's completely unempathetic of me to not mourn the death of a stranger. It's rather human, I believe. And so, yeah, I feel like both extremes on either sides of the political spectrum are just, this is radicalization, and this is what I feel personally the media encourages, whether intentionally or unintentionally. Media encourages polarization, which encourages radicalization, and I have for a long time believed that the middle path is the most informed. So radicals are on opposite ends of the spectrum. The middle path is, I think, where you can get the fullest picture, because you see the reactions of both radicals, and I think that the most truthfully needed response is usually going to be in the middle of two opposites. But yeah, I just wanted to throw my 2 cents out there. I admit I am not the most politically informed person, because I can only take so much politics before my brain wants to melt and explode, right? So yeah, but I just wanted to represent that moderate viewpoint out there that I feel like many people actually share. And sure, that won't be what is sensationalized in media, because it's not interesting news, Oh, moderate, feeling person has nuanced feelings about the death of a bigot. Like, that doesn't make for good articles. You know what does? Oh, this is war. People are celebrating murder. Or, oh, an angel died. That makes better headlines, right? But that isn't the most reasonable understanding of the situation, in my opinion. So yeah, if you also share my views, feel free to let me know in the comments. You can like and subscribe too, and I hate that I'm bringing this up. YouTube does tell me, repeatedly, it's like, would you like to get more views and subscribers? Tell your audience in the videos. And so now I'm getting all meta with y'all. But, I do appreciate the people that like and subscribe and push my videos out more in the algorithm and help me get my opinions out there. I know, who am I to have my opinions heard, but I do think that there are a lot of people that feel the same way as me, and so I want to see people like myself better represented in media, and so to do that, what's in my control is to put myself out there and hope that the people who agree see it. So I hope everyone has a good day, and I just want to say it is sad whenever anyone is murdered. I don't care what you've done. That's why I don't really necessarily believe in the death penalty either, per se, especially with the way that the court system is currently. I think it would need a massive overhaul in order to justly condemn people to death. But yeah, I'm not for death. And I definitely am not for killing people in front of children. I don't think that's ever okay. And I don't think even the radicals think that that's truly okay, to traumatize innocent children by having them watch their father be murdered in front of them. That's not okay. And anyone saying that's okay, I fear that you've become blind, that you have fought your perceived monsters for so long that you have become like them. And that is always the risk in a holy battle of swords or self-righteousness, is that we become just like the people we fight against in our effort to, fight whatever oppression we perceive. And so I think it's really important in these things that can bring, like, elicit such strong feelings in us, to take a step back and ask ourselves, am I being radicalized by the media? Am I saying and feeling things that betray my normal morals and values? Because if you guys have watched my videos, then you know I went through a small period where I feel like I was close to becoming radicalized. And it felt so untrue to who I am that I had to stop paying attention to politics for a bit and recalibrate and reflect on what really matters to me. And I have come to understand that what really matters to me is not dehumanizing people, regardless of who they are, because we are all still human. Not becoming like the people that I think are in the wrong, just because I don't want to feel so self-righteous in my beliefs that I dehumanize others, right? Because that is the main issue I have with people that I don't like, is those that dehumanize others because they disagree with them. So I need to make sure that I don't also become like that. And so I encourage anyone who has been feeling those visceral reactions to this news to just really take a step back. If you need to detox screens or just stop looking at politics, like stop watching the news, whatever it is you need to do to recalibrate yourself with what you really feel is right in your heart, I urge and recommend that for sure. Because I think if we all are willing to step away from sensationalized media and honestly answer to ourselves, what do I think is right and what do I think is wrong, we're all going to come to pretty similar conclusions, that we think it's wrong to actively try to hurt people. And maybe not everyone gets to that. Maybe that's the naive, hopeful, person in me. But I like to think that most people, most humans, don't want to hurt others, and especially innocent people, So yeah, I will hop off here. I just wanted to share my 2 cents because, like I said, I feel like the moderate voices don't get enough coverage because they're not as interesting, obviously. Dramatics are always much more entertaining, but that's also not real life. Life isn't always entertaining. Life isn't always dramatic. Sometimes life is boring and mundane, but it is still beautiful in its own way. So I hope you have a good day, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye.